It's the Best Damn Sports Show podcast with your hosts, Jason Cahill and Bernie Kim.
All right, thanks, Chuck D, and welcome to the Best Damn Sports Show podcast. I am Best Damn producer Jason Cahill. Sitting next to me,
I am Bernie, right here, ready to go. Let's do this.
Hey, Bernie, we got a great podcast for everybody today. Our guest, Ron Artest.
I love this guy. He's out there. I love him.
He is. It's going to be a great interview. You're not going to want to miss this. Now, obviously, on Best Damn last week, he sat down with Kobe Bryant. Now, during his interview with us today, he's going to tell us who he wants to sit down with next. Now, I'm not going to give it away, but let me just say that if this interview happens, it will be earth-shattering. It will shock the world.
Front page news.
Am I exaggerating? It's pretty big news. If what he's proposing actually happens, it's going to be pretty big news. Would you say that?
No, I absolutely agree with that.
All right, so we will talk to Ron Artest in just a few minutes. And, of course, as always, the email address is bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. Send us an email. Let us know what you think of the podcast. And if you have any questions, we will read them on the air. Let's get right to it. We had a good week at Best Damn. Last week, we had Marissa Miller. This week, it was Maria Menounos. The very lovely Maria Menounos came by.
Getting hotter and hotter. I love it.
I got to tell you, though, as beautiful as Maria Menounos is, I think that you would agree with me in saying that there is a flaw. There is a big flaw that we noticed during her segment, and it's her laugh.
Some might call it Hollywood's best-kept secret as to why this hasn't been just attached to her as everywhere she goes is the laugh girl.
Now, what was funny was during the segment, she said that Jeremy Piven once told her that her laugh it sounded like a goat mounting a dump truck. And I think that's a pretty accurate description.
Then nailed it.
Yeah,
nailed
it was something like exactly. And the first time I think any of us heard it, we're in the control room, and you don't know what has happened. You think she's kidding around, but that's her laugh.
We're trying to concentrate on the segment and making sure everything's going smoothly, and all of a sudden she busts out laughing. I shoot my head up and turn around and look at you, and your jaw is just on the floor.
Well, I couldn't believe it. I thought she was kidding around, but no, that's her laugh, and she did it about 4 times in the segment. And then the last time, Chris Rose had to call her out on it. What the hell?
It is.
A goat mounting a dump truck. Thank you, Jeremy Piven. That's pretty accurate.
Imagine, getting the nerve to ask her out, having her say yes, you're all pumped up, you go on a date, you make her laugh in a restaurant, and then that erupts.
Well, not only that, you can't even take her to a movie.
No.
You go see Knocked Up with her,
forget about it.
You got to sit like 4 rows behind her. How could you, we were saying that might be a deal breaker.
Maybe.
Let me ask you this. Bernie, you're single. Maria Menounos, before this, I'm going to say is a 9 or a 10. She's beautiful, she's smart.
I'll say 10.
She's the full package.
10.
But now knowing that she has that laugh, how far down does that make her fall? Is that a deal breaker? Do you not date Maria Menounos because of this laugh?
It is not a deal breaker. It's, if I were George Clooney, maybe it would be a deal breaker.
I got to be honest. Granted, I'm married, so I'm not faced with this dilemma.
You're taking the safe way. You're married.
Yeah, and if I was single, I'm pretty sure Maria Menounos wouldn't be asking me out on a date. But if she did, knowing this, I'm saying deal breaker.
Look,
she went from a 9 or a 10, 7 now, 7.5.
Wow.
All for the laugh.
Wow.
Guys, if you think I'm making this up, watch the segment back again. Email us at bestdampodcast@yahoo.com if you disagree with the fact that I'm now saying she's a 7 or a 7.5. The laugh is a deal breaker.
There's no way I could ever say no to that girl.
The debate will rage on, but
that laugh is something else. That is, it is.
It's a goat mounting a dump truck. That's exactly what it is. Hey, so one of the other great segments we had this week, GP, Gary Payton was in guest hosting. He's always great, and it's always fun when we bring the lie detector in.
Love the lie detector.
We brought the lie detector in. We hooked Gary Payton up, and we got some pretty funny stuff. My favorite being the last question we asked him, for $100 million, would you get a sex change and play in the WNBA? He thought about it for a second and then answered that he absolutely would.
And it came back.
He was telling the truth.
The truth. My favorite part is after that segment was over, I was talking to Sally backstage, And Peyton comes up to him and he goes, I get that operation. I'd be balling. I'd have 50 points every night. And he was trash talking to Sally about how he'd be the best WNBA player ever.
It is pretty funny because that conversation really did. The minute that the camera stopped and the segment was over, I'm going to say that continued for about another hour. Him and Sally, him and the wardrobe girls, he would talk about it with anybody and explain why for $100 million he would do it.
That's a lot of money. $100 million. That is... Even for an NBA player, that's life-changing money. Even for a well-established guy.
Well, not only that, but to Gary Payton's point, you then become the best player. He could be the Michael Jordan of the WNBA.
Yeah.
So maybe it's worth it for $100 million.
I think so.
That was pretty funny, though. Hey, one of the other great shows we had this week, on Friday's show, we unveiled Best Dam's all-time baseball team. This was where we picked one player at each position, including starting pitcher, relief pitcher, catcher, all the way through the infield and outfield. And we named our all-time team. We had Ken Rosenthal on, Harold Reynolds on, Raleigh Fingers. And there was some pretty controversial stuff that happened during the show, especially at shortstop. We named Alex Rodriguez as the all-time shortstop. And I think that each of those three guys had a problem with that. And I think a lot of guys around the office had a problem with putting A-Rod at shortstop. And not only that, but saying that he's better all-time than Cal Ripken. You're from Baltimore, Bernie.
I'm from Baltimore. But I have no problem with it. The guy in 9 seasons at shortstop I think he was one home run away from having the most home runs ever for a shortstop.
Right.
So he pretty much made a mockery of all the offensive stats for a shortstop. He was amazing. He won Gold Gloves at shortstop.
Yep.
He would still be a shortstop today if it wasn't for the politics on the Yankees. I mean, any other team he's playing for, he's going to be the shortstop.
Well, to Chris Rose's point, he's probably still the best shortstop on the Yankees.
Probably.
But, I mean, in all honesty, he won an MVP as a shortstop. He played twice as many games at shortstop to this day than he has at third base. So I still think of him as a shortstop, and I do think that when you look at the numbers, and that's really what this is, you're looking at career numbers, and again, his career is not done, but he is a better all-time shortstop than Cal Ripken Jr. I think...
To their point, I understand that Cal, me being from Baltimore again, I know that he changed the position. He was the big man. He was, over 6 feet tall, and he could field his position. He had over 20 home runs, 8-9 seasons in a row, which was unheard of pretty much for a shortstop. Usually, you just want to be a slick fielder, short guy.
Ripken revolutionized the position. He really did.
I get that, but A-Rod is amazing. He is just in a new offensive level.
I think so. I defend their decision to put him as the all-time shortstop. Another controversial move was, we had 4 candidates for each position, and then we let the guys kind of hash it out and tell us who they would pick. Now, for first base, that was a tough one. There's some no-brainers. Obviously, Lou Gehrig's on there, and Jimmy Fox is on there, and you can argue that Eddie Murray is on there as well. But we put Rafael Palmeiro as the 4th nominee for best all-time first baseman, and I was absolutely in the minority, I think, in including him on this list. I got a lot of feedback from people that work at Best Damn thinking that he shouldn't have been on that list, and clearly the 3 guys on the panel didn't think so at all. But I still defend it by saying, steroids aside, and really, for this discussion, I really think you have to put steroids aside, but more than 500 homers, more than 3,000 hits. He's one of 4 guys to have accomplished that. And the guy did win a Gold Glove. He made all-star teams. I think he's one of the 4 best first basemen in baseball history. I really do, based on the numbers.
The body, that's, there is something to be said for longevity and consistent production. Again, he is another Oriole. I watched him produce 150 RBI season, 35 home runs. But when I look at the best player at any given position for the history of the game, you have to have a guy that dominated so much that he was clear-cut the best at his position in his era.
Who do you put on that list instead of Palmeiro?
You could put Willie McCovey on there. But for my money, a guy that I saw for the 90s, which is the time that Palmeiro was
Kevin
playing.
Millar.
Well, I love Millar. 2 home runs against the Yankees the other day. But for me, the best first baseman of the 90s was Frank Thomas. He was the most feared hitter. He wasn't as good defensively, but offensively he could hit for average and he could hit for power, and he won 2 MVP awards. He was top 5 MVP several times. He's got over 500 home runs, and I think if he gets, I don't know how far away in hits he is from 3,000, but he could get there in a couple more seasons.
I definitely understand the argument, but I do think that from a numbers standpoint, I think Palmeiro is one of the best to have ever played that position. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who disagree with me. If you do, bestdampodcast@yahoo.com, and we can get that debate going. But I think all in all, it was a great show. I think we made some controversial selections, and we made some no-brainer selections. But if you're a big fan of baseball, I think it was a good 60 minutes of television.
Definitely. Oh.
Hey, so why don't we get to our first guest?
Can't wait. This is awesome.
Now, this is going to be big because, like I said earlier, he's going to drop some news in this interview, and it's going to be earth-shattering. It's an interview that he wants to do and may do on Best Damn Sports Show. So we'll ask him about that in just a second, but let's bring him in. He is NBA superstar Ron Artest. Hey, Ron, welcome to the Best Damn Podcast. How are you?
What's going on? Everything's all right.
All right, man. We got a lot to talk to you about today. Obviously, you did that big sit-down interview with Kobe Bryant on Best Damn last week. Everybody loved it. We want to talk to you about that. How much fun was that for you to do?
Yeah, that was fun. It was a great opportunity for me. Just trying to, do a little bit of different things in the off season and still being able to have fun. And when the opportunity came, and y'all said I have a chance to interview Kobe Bryant, I was like, that's the perfect, setting to kind of kick off this commentating / interviewer career.
Hey, so what kind of feedback have you gotten from the other players in the league about that interview?
Well, a lot of people said it was funny, it was fun, and they said he was real competitive in the interview. They said it was times where he could have kind of dropped his guard, but, Kobe being the competitor that he is and the great player, and I'm still an opponent of his, as we play against each other in the NBA, he was always on point, and it seemed like all his questions and all my questions and all his answers, it seemed like he was competing the whole time, but it was a joyful interview for me.
Yeah, I got to say, Ron, a bunch of people here kind of thought that it seemed like you had a bit of a man crush on Kobe Bryant.
They crazy. Now, you know what, Kobe, like I said, when you get the opportunity to interview, a player like Kobe, even if I'm not a basketball player, just being a regular commentator or whatever, and that being your first interview, you got to show all respect and you got to give all credit, to the man who made it happen, because without him, I wouldn't have had a Kobe Bryant, so I got to give a lot of respect, to Kobe Bryant and thanks for him for even doing it during the playoffs.
I mean, Ryan, but you are one of the fiercest, most feared defenders in the league, and you D up on him, 4 times a season. Do you feel nervous when you play him, or it just seemed different? It seemed like it was just a whole different Ron Artest when you were interviewing him.
It was definitely a different Ron Artest. I dropped my guard totally. If I'm gonna be like interviewing players, I think it's better if I just actually do the interview rather than competing and talking trash. Every now and then I can do it, maybe another time we can do that again. And me and Kobe Bryant actually going back at it, But at the same time, when I'm on the court, I'm definitely the hardest and most toughest defender there is or probably ever been on the wing. So when I'm on the court, it's totally different. That's Ron Artest, a.k.a. the killer. But when I'm doing interviews, it's Ron Artest, a.k.a. Mr. Smoothie.
Hey, so a couple more things. We talked about it earlier in the podcast. We had Gary Payton guest hosting this week. We hooked him up to a lie detector on Wednesday's show. I want to ask you a couple of questions we asked him and see if you answer the same way. The first question we asked him when we hooked him up to the lie detector, obviously Ray Allen not having the greatest playoffs so far. We asked, is Ray Allen soft? And he said that he was. And it came out that he was telling the truth. So he thinks Ray Allen is soft. So if we ask you that question, is Ray Allen soft, what do you say?
No, not after last night's performance.
Yeah, he stepped up. Well, hey, Ron, but where has he been for the first 2 rounds in the playoffs? He's not looked like the same sharpshooting Ray Allen that I've known for 10 years.
Well, what happens is when you're playing with Garnett and Pierce, Ray Allen is pretty much the third option, Garnett being the face of the franchise, Pierce being the second face of the franchise. And then you got an all-star, one of the best shooters of all time in Ray Allen, but Ray Allen's taking a back seat. So when you got a third option player, they're not going to get as many touches and as many shots as your first and second option. So people got to understand it's going to take time for Ray Allen to get warm. And at the end of the day, where are the Boston Celtics right now? They are in the playoffs, 3-2, got a chance to beat Detroit in 6. Who could ask for anything more?
Hey, so one of the other lie detector questions we asked GP, we said, for $100 million, would you get a sex change and play in the WNBA? And he said he would.
Huh?
He said that he would.
He said, No.
$100 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Man, you know what? I would cut another album and put all my bank in hoping that it goes 10 times platinum.
All right, so no WNBA for Ron Artest.
That's hilarious.
Hey, so one other thing I got to bring up with you. It was the big news this week at Best Damn. You sent an email to our talent booker, and you had a request for your next sit-down interview. You did so well with Kobe Bryant that you came up with an idea for your next sit-down interview. And I got to say, this is pretty great stuff if it can happen. And I want to read your email to Stacy, our talent booker. You said, let's do an interview with John Green, who hit me with the beer, and the gentleman that I hit. So you want to sit down with these guys and do an interview?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool because when things happen, whether it's sports, whether you're just reading the news and you see so much negative things happen, and mainly between two people, as far as fighting or whatever, non-professionally, it's a hate and animosity that comes with that, and then I think it carries over to the youth, and the youth think that's how you're supposed to act. So I'm saying something happened between us in Detroit. It's over. How about letting them really get their point across and how things happened, and letting people get a chance to see everybody that was involved actually have some common sense. I guess 4 years, 5 years removed, from the incident. And I guess it'll be a little bit fun because I made mistakes. John Green made a mistake. The other guy, he was just around, and things happen, And I think that'd be a cool interview for people to see, and they'll really be interested in hearing what both parties got to say with me being the interviewer.
Have you talked to either of these guys since that incident?
No, actually, one time I was going to try to reach out to John, but my lawyers advised me not to because the case and everything was still happening, so I wasn't able to do that. So we kind of fell back, but I guess Best Damn Sports Show is going to make it happen.
All right, so Best Damn Sports Show is going to make this happen. We're gonna sit you down with John Green. That's the guy who threw the beer at you, and then the guy who you hit on the court, who looks a lot like Turtle from Entourage, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, you're not a big Entourage fan?
Well, I haven't really watched Entourage. I heard it's a big show, but I have not seen one episode. My kids just continue to keep me busy.
All right, man. So we got to make that happen. I got to think that's going to be pretty big news if you sit down with those guys.
It'll be. I think it'll be something else for people to see, and it could be fun at the same time, and it could get the point of views with the people right there that have all these problems with each other, and then we're all right there talking and actually taking each other through the whole brawl, and now we actually get some sense into our brain, and I think it'll be good for people in general.
What do you want to say to him?
Actually, at the interview, all I want to ask, I would talk to John first. Ask him why did he do what he did? Things like that. We really want to give away all the questions right now because we want people to watch. How is he doing now? How has his life changed? Things like that.
All right, well, we are really looking forward to it, and we're going to try our best to make that happen on Best Damn Sports Show. Ron Artest, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in the studio very soon.
Oh, yeah, see you there.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Ron.
Wow, I'm going to say that would be front page news if Ron Artest sat down with the two guys who were involved in that melee in Detroit.
I'm just glad that he wants to do it.
Yeah. Not an Entourage fan, though. He didn't realize that he punched Turtle right in the face. So that's good stuff. Let's hope we can make that happen and get that going on Best Damn.
We need to reconcile this thing.
We do. It's 4 years since, so a lot of water under the bridge, I guess. And he did such a great job with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Man crush. He really did have that big man crush. All right, Bernie, next week we got a big week on Best Damn. John Cena's coming in to guest host.
Can't wait. That guy's great.
That's going to be great. We're going to have him. We're going to have Michelle McCool, who is a hot WWE diva.
Smoking.
Charles Barkley is going to be on the show.
I love that.
Michael Strahan coming back to guest host.
He's back.
And then Jeff Foxworthy. It's going to be a great week on Best Damn.
That's a star-studded week.
All right, so thanks for listening to the podcast. Remember, email us, bestdampodcast@yahoo.com, and we'll read your questions and comments on the air. So thanks again for listening, and until next week, I'm Jason.
And I'm Bernie.
See you soon.